Hi, welcome back to my channel Quick Recapped. Today I am going to explain Vanishing Time, A Boy Who Returned. That is a South Korean fantasy film. Spoilers ahead. The opening scene of the film features a young patient named Surin who undergoes an interview with a child psychiatrist. Surin exhibits visible signs of anxiety when the doctor begins to set up a camera to record the session. The child psychiatrist prompts Surin to begin telling her story, and she complies by starting with the fact that her mother had married a man named Do-kyun several years ago. Sadly, Surin's mother passed away soon after the marriage, and as a result, Surin has been living with Do-kyun ever since. Do-kyun receives a job posting on a remote island called Wano, where he is tasked to oversee a construction project. Consequently, Do-kyun and Surin have to move to the island. Following her mother's demise, Surin has been unable to find genuine happiness. Surin is not very talkative and does not harbor positive feelings toward her stepfather. Even after being enrolled in a new school on the island, where she has the chance to make new friends, she still prefers to keep to herself. Do-kyun's work as the chief of a tunnel construction site requires him to work overnight shifts. Due to the risk of explosions, the local residents are prohibited from entering the construction area. One night, while browsing through her phone, Surin stumbles upon some comments on her blog that were about a wormhole. Following her mother's death, Surin had an urge to escape from the world. During her research on how to achieve this, she developed a fascination with topics such as wormholes and supernatural entities. She spends time chatting with people online about such subjects, even using the school's computer to do so. Surin unintentionally forgets to close her computer, which enables her classmates to access her comments and mock her. Later on, while on her way home, Surin encounters a boy named Sungmin who resides in an orphanage. Sungmin tries to initiate a friendship with Surin, but she disregards him. The following day, during lunchtime, Surin overhears Sungmin and his companions discussing her blog on the wormhole. During the conversation, Sungmin reveals that he has purportedly entered another dimension after reading Surin's blog post. Later that day, Sungmin follows her when Surin is going home. When Surin confronts him, Sungmin admits to believing everything that she has written on her blog. Their shared interest in the supernatural leads to Surin and Sungmin becoming friends. In order to communicate secretly, Surin creates her own alphabets that only she and Sungmin can understand. They start using the alphabets to leave each other notes in Surin's diary on a daily basis. After school, every day both go on ghost hunting expeditions around town. During one such outing, Sungmin leads Surin to a wooden house that is currently abandoned in the forest. They spend a long time exploring the house, gossiping, and carving wax blocks. Surin starts to develop love feelings for Sungmin, and one day, she kisses him out of the blue, causing him to feel flustered. One day, Surin discovers Sungmin and three of his friends discussing their plans to sneak into the construction site and witness the explosions. She decides to join them on this adventure. The group makes their way through the woods to avoid being seen by them. As the group crosses the fence into the construction site, one of the kids gets scared and runs back home. The remaining four hide behind a cliff, hoping to witness the explosions. However, they are disappointed when no explosions occur. As they wander through the jungle, they stumble upon a small cave. The group decides to investigate the cave and enters it one by one. As they move forward, they stumble upon a luminous material submerged in water at the cave's far end. Surin presumes it to be a meteorite. Sungmin decides to take the responsibility of diving into the water and retrieving the glowing substance. When the glowing substance is retrieved from the cave, it abruptly ceases to emit light. The group of youngsters observes that it has an egg-like appearance. Tae-shik, one of the members, suggests that it could possibly be an egg belonging to a time goblin. He recalls his grandfather's tale of a cave that appears in the mountains during full moon nights, living there at the time of goblin. Tae-shik warns the group that anyone who enters the cave will come out aged. However, the others remain skeptical as they did not experience any signs of aging after their exploration. Later on, Surin realizes that her cherished hairpin, a gift from her mother, is lost. She decides to re-enter the cave alone to search for it while the guys stay back to guard the glowing egg. After finding her hairpin, Surin notices that the luminous egg has reappeared in the water. Surin emerges from the cave, feeling bewildered, only to find that the glowing egg has shattered, and her friends are nowhere to be found. She searches frantically throughout the jungle until nightfall, but to no avail. Exhausted and lost, she spends the night in the woods. The next day, the police launch a search operation for the missing kids, with Detective On leading the investigation. Eventually, the authorities find Surin unconscious in the woods. Thankfully, she is alive and unharmed. While recovering in the hospital, Detective On questions Surin about the disappearance of her friends. She recounts the entire incident, including the cave, the glowing egg, and her search for her missing friends. However, neither the detective nor the adults believe on her. Surin takes them to the jungle to show them the cave, but to her surprise, it is nowhere to be found. The group is puzzled by the vanishing of the cave and its contents, as if it had never existed. Later on, Detective On receives a distressing update that the body of Jaewook, who had gone missing, has been found buried underground on a beach 20 kilometers away from the town. The investigation concludes that his death was caused by an asthma attack. With the discovery of Jaewook's body buried underground, the case transforms from a mere missing persons case to that of a kidnapping. Despite weeks of intensive search, the other two boys remain missing. Without Sungmin, Surin becomes introverted and withdrawn, struggling to comprehend what has happened. However, nobody believes her story, leaving her feeling isolated and alone. Surin hears a disturbance outside her house and decides to investigate. Upon reaching the woods, she notices a man sprinting away from her. Without hesitation, she chases after him, delving deeper into the forest. However, after a few minutes of running, she trips and falls to the ground. To her surprise, the man comes to a halt and proceeds to approach her, staring at her in puzzlement. Surin stands frozen in shock, uncertain of what to do next. As the man approaches her, he speaks for the first time and introduces himself as Sungmin. Surin is initially startled but then runs away in tears upon hearing his name. She eventually stumbles upon Dukyun's car and desperately informs him about the encounter with Sungmin. The police are alerted about the situation, and they launch a search party in the woods, suspecting Sungmin to be the kidnapper. Detective On interrogates Surin about the mysterious man, and she confesses that he was impersonating Sungmin. Despite the efforts of the police, the kidnapper remains elusive. However, during their search, they come across Surin's diary, which she and Sungmin used to leave each other messages. To Surin's amazement, the diary is filled with Sungmin's notes. Using their secret code language to write about everything that happened after Surin went back into the cave to retrieve her hairpin. The diary revealed that the other guys became curious about the glowing egg, and Sungmin gave in to their persuasion and broke it on the ground, without waiting for Surin to return. To their shock, they discover that the egg is hollow. When Surin doesn't return for a while, then Sungmin enters the cave to search for Surin. He finds her frozen in place, unresponsive to his attempts to move her. Suddenly, he observes a drop of water floating in midair. After coming out of the cave, Sungmin observes that even the birds are frozen in the air, and when he and the other boys go to the town, they find out that everyone, including their families, has also paused. They soon realize that time has stopped for everyone except them, giving them the freedom to do whatever they want. They take advantage of this by eating and drinking whatever they like, sleeping at any time, and playing around all day. After a month of enjoying their freedom, the boys board and make a plan to leave the island and explore other places to see if they are the only ones unaffected by the time freeze. However, their hopes are dashed when they discover that the water in the ocean has also freezed, which means that the boat won't be able to move and will likely sink if they try to use it to leave the island. Surin realizes that the man who came to her in the forest was Sungmin, causing her to stop reading and become more concerned with keeping the police away from him. Her top priority is to prevent his arrest, as they would consider him the kidnapper. As a result, she lies to the police, claiming that she made up the story about seeing anyone in the woods. The police trust Surin's statement and she resumes reading the journal. As time goes by, the boys take up residence in a tent inside the mall. Unfortunately, Jaewook's health deteriorates rapidly since he suffers from asthma and his inhaler also not working right now. One evening, their friend died as he was unable to breathe, and he passed away in front of them. Both were deeply saddened by this event. They buried their friend's body on a beach close by with great sorrow. Once Jaewook passed away, his body also became still, just like the others. Despite 5 years passing, the world has remained unchanged. They have now become teenagers, even though they have been living in seclusion for many years. Despite their isolation, they hold on to the hope that one day the world will return to its previous state. Sungmin holds on to the belief that when they reach the age of 20, their world will start moving again. To prepare for this event, they secretly steal a small amount of money from everyone, with the intention of becoming wealthy once their time resumes. However, their hopes are shattered when they turn 20 and nothing changes. Disheartened, they begin to lose faith and move to a wooden house located in the jungle to live. The overwhelming isolation eventually takes its toll on Sungmin, and he cannot bear it anymore. He screams and yells. Tae-shik observes this from a distance and loses all hope for a better future. Some days later, Sung-min notices that the shape of the moon is changing, a sign that their world is about to start moving again. He sets out to find Tae-shik, but he is nowhere to be found. Determined to locate his friend, Sung-min searches the entire island and lastly reaches the last hill. Upon reaching the cliff, Sung-min finds Tae-shik's clothes lying on the ground and realizes that his friend has jumped off the cliff. As a last resort, Sung-min jumps off the cliff after him. At that exact moment, the world suddenly resumes, and Sung-min is submerged in the water. When he resurfaces, he is amazed to witness the world in motion once again. After reading the journal, Surin rushes to the wooden house and is overjoyed to finally see her friend. They agree to share their incredible story with the world, but they are uncertain whether people will believe them. Meanwhile, CCTV footage captures Sung-min in the woods, leading the police to suspect him of being a kidnapper. As the night falls, Sung-min seeks emotional support from Surin and visits her in her room. Due to living in isolation for such a prolonged period, Sung-min is concerned that he might harm himself to alleviate the emotional pain. The next day, Tae-shik's parents arrive at the construction site, holding Do-kyun responsible for their son's disappearance. Tae-shik's parents refuse to believe the story of their son's disappearance and instead believe that he died in the construction site's explosion. They also accuse Surin of fabricating stories to protect her stepfather. Meanwhile, Surin and Sung-min visit the orphanage where Sung-min grew up. Surin speaks with the warden and explains everything what happened. But as she comes outside to call Sung-min, her father arrives and forcefully takes her away. Despite his doubts, Sung-min confides in the warden and tells her about his childhood experiences. However, she remains doubtful about his story. Later that night, Surin finds herself locked in her room by Do-kyun, but Sung-min manages to sneak in through the back door and rescues her. After escaping from the house, Surin and Sung-min discuss their next move. Surin recalls seeing a second egg in the cave and suggests using it to age rapidly and return to society as an adult to prove Sung-min's innocence. However, Sung-min opposes the idea because he knows how hard it was to survive in isolation. Sung-min would rather take the blame for the kidnapping than let Surin suffer the same fate of isolation that he did for years. Meanwhile, Do-kyun realizes that Surin is missing and finds a photo of her and Sung-min on her phone, leading him to believe that they went to the wooden house. He arrives at the wooden house at night, assaults Sung-min, and attempts to take Surin back home. However, Sung-min fights back, knocking him unconscious, and he and Surin flee from the scene. The police investigate the wooden house next day and suspect that the alleged kidnapper is manipulating Surin by convincing her that he is Sung-min. As the news of Surin's disappearance spreads, the police quickly track down both of them. A chase ensues, but Surin ultimately decides to turn herself in to save Sung-min. Before they part ways, she asks him to meet her at the cave before they are separated. Detective On attempts to convince Surin that the supposed kidnapper is deceiving her, but she refuses to believe him. Surin uses the bathroom as a pretext to escape and heads to the cave alone. After meeting at the cave, Surin hands over the glowing egg to Sung-min, but he hesitates to take it and refuses to return it to her. He doesn't want her to go through the isolation he experienced. Sung-min decides to take responsibility for his friend's deaths and turn himself in to the police. He runs into the woods, followed by Surin. Meanwhile, the police comes and give chase behind them. Eventually, they all reach the edge of a cliff and stop there. An officer seizes Sung-min and in the struggle, Surin falls off the cliff. Detective On rushes to save her, but they both end up hanging off the edge. Sung-min attempts to rescue them, but tragically they all fall back. Sung-min uses the glowing egg again to freeze time and prevent Surin and the detective from falling off the cliff. When Surin regains consciousness, she finds herself on a beach with the detective and quickly realizes that Sung-min has used the egg to freeze time again. Although it seemed like just a moment to her, she realizes that it must have been another decade for Sung-min. Soon after, and she is brought back home after the incident, where she has dinner with her father. During dinner, she apologizes for her actions and addresses him as dad for the first time. The detective visits Surin to investigate how they survived from fall down. Surin remains quiet, but the detective realizes that she was telling the truth the whole time. The detective advises Surin to provide a false statement to the media stating that the kidnapper had brainwashed her. By giving a false statement to the media, the accusations against Surin for killing her friends and being involved with the kidnapper would be disproven. After finally finishing her story with the psychiatrist, Surin is in shock from everything that has happened and expresses her desire to write a book about her experiences. Afterwards, Surin goes to meet the psychiatrist before leaving for a new high school in a different city. During the meeting, the psychiatrist presents her with a published copy of the book she wrote about her experiences. On her way to the ferry, Surin catches a glimpse of Sungmin through her car window and jumps out to meet him, but he disappears. Later, they meet on the deck of the ferry and stare at each other as the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Check out our other recaps.